We can go ahead and hit record. Thank you so much. Perfect. Hello, everybody. We will get started in just a couple minutes. Welcome. Hello, Ty. Welcome. Just two more board members, Ryan, and then we'll get going. Welcome, Bruce. Hi there. Welcome. We're waiting on just one more board member, and then we'll get this meeting started. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
I think vacation season has begun.
I'm afraid it has. Thanks for your patience, everyone. We're just waiting to make quorum, and we should hopefully do that here in just a couple minutes. Great. Okay, Ryan, we can go ahead and get started. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect, Sarah. Thanks so much. Let me just trade screens here. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there with us while we established a quorum. Welcome to the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Board meeting. I'm sad today to announce that Samantha Jackson has resigned her position with the Downtown Phoenix Partnership, so she will no longer be serving on the board. I wanted to take a moment to thank Sam for her service on the COC board and her continued work and dedication in our region. I sure hope that our paths will cross again soon. And Sarah, was Sam able to join us today?
No, she was not.
Okay, appreciate that. Well, if you see Sam out in the community, please say thank you. And again, I hope we see her sooner rather than later. With that, Sarah, I'd like to ask you to please commence the roll call. I'd appreciate it if everybody would introduce yourself and your organization.
Thank you so much, Ryan. We'll start with you, Chair Ryan Balch.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Balch from the city of Chandler.
Excellent. Eric Cole, I don't see that he's on here. Elizabeth DaCosta.
Liz DaCosta with Community Bridges.
Hi, Liz. Marshall Franklin. I don't see her on here either. Nor Tad Gary. Bruce Liggett.
Bruce Liggett, Maricopa County.
Hello, Bruce. Joan Service.
Hi, Joan Service.
Hi, Joan. And Charles Sullivan is not able to make it today. And then we've got Jackie Taylor.
Hi, Jackie Taylor, Save the Family.
Thank you.
All right, did we miss anybody? All right. Quick housekeeping statement for all participants, please mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking, and please do not put your phone on hold. I'd also ask that all participants identify yourself when speaking. We will be reminding people to do that throughout the meeting. MAG operates committees and the COC board meeting in full transparency, giving the public access to committee meetings, materials, and discussion. The public cannot view the comments, and as a result, the chat feature will be disabled for this meeting. If you need technical assistance during the meeting, please contact the helpline or contact MAG staff, Sarah Kent, who is assigned to the meeting. We appreciate your understanding and helping to maintain transparent discussions for the benefit of the public. One final housekeeping item, all votes will be roll call votes. Sarah will call the roll after each motion is made. Please note that members of the public were given an opportunity to submit written comments relating to this meeting at azmag.gov/comment within 1 hour of the posted start time for the meeting. Were there any comments received?
Yes, Ryan. I have received one comment from Miss Wendy Johnson of Justice Center for agenda number item, and we'll read it now, and then we'll read it again for agenda number 5. It reads, "Good morning, COC board members. My comment is for the board meeting today about expanding the board with members from the underrepresented groups, item number 5 on the agenda." She said, "I affirm that the West Valley absolutely needs to be on the board along with LGBTQIA+ representation. I'd like to suggest that you also consider specialized needs of elderly and their growing number in homelessness. I'd like to see someone working directly with this group. Thank you so much, Wendy Johnson."
Perfect, Sarah, thanks for sharing.
Yep.
We will move on to the next agenda item, which is consent. Our next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Item 3A is on the consent agenda. As a reminder, please note that board members may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda if there is a need for discussion. Board members cannot comment on a consent agenda item without first requesting it be moved to discussion. Does any of the COC board request a discussion on any of these items? If so, please state your name and agenda item to be removed. All right, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the consent items? Please state your name.
Jackie Taylor, so move.
Thank you,
Bruce Liggett,
Jackie.
second.
Thank you, Bruce. So we have a motion from Jackie Taylor and a second from Bruce Liggett. Now I'll hand it over to Sarah to proceed with the roll call. Please indicate clearly how you choose to motion, stating yay or nay after your name is called.
Thank you so much, Ryan. We'll start with you, Chair Ryan Balch.
Yay.
Thank you. Eric Cole, I don't see him. No. Liz DeCosta.
This is Liz, yay.
Thank you, Liz. Marshall Franklin.
Yay.
Thank you, Marshall. Tad Gary, I don't see him yet. Bruce Liggett.
Yay.
Thank you. Joan Service.
This is Joan. Aye.
Thank you, Joan. And Jackie Taylor.
Yay.
Great. And the motion passes.
Great. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Sarah. All right. Now Nikki Stevens, Regional Homelessness Program Manager at MAG, will present on the process to execute memorandums of understanding among the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Board and the Public Housing Authorities recommended for COC board action. Nikki?
Oh, you're on mute, Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going, this item is up for a approval from the board. On May 5th, the Department of Housing and Urban Development awarded emergency housing vouchers to public housing authorities throughout the country, including those in the Maricopa region. One of the requirements for accepting the vouchers is to develop a MOU with the public housing authorities and the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care. To comply with this requirement, and the meetings have been held with the public housing authorities to determine the content of the MOUs and to develop a collaborative process to support the partnership. Per the federal notice, the deadline to execute the agreements is July 31st, 2021. The purpose of this item is to offer an overview of the actions taken to comply with the federal requirements and to support the regional stakeholders. The board will be offered the opportunity to provide direction on the process to execute the agreements by the deadline of July 31st. I know a lot of the PHAs are looking to execute them a lot sooner. So this process is going to allow us to get approval to move that forward for approval from the board.
All right, thank you, Nikki. Are there any questions or discussion from board members? As a reminder, please identify yourself. And staff, I can't see everybody, so board, feel free to jump in case I'm missing a hand or a face waving at me.
Yep, and I'll let you know, Ryan. Nobody has
yeah.
raised their
Okay.
hand.
We'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I can start out by saying that there has been a lot of work going on with the PHAs. The PHAs have met multiple times as groups to discuss how to implement these programs and very quickly, and how they can work best with the COC and other partnering agencies to get that done successfully and effectively. So I'm glad to see all those conversations taking place. And I know there's also been several conversations with each of the coordinated entry systems. So I very much appreciate all of you coming to the table to make this an effective program as well. And also HUD and MAG staff have been involved in these conversations. So thank you for all your technical assistance to make this program the very best it can be. I'm really looking forward to the outcome of how the memorandums will look, and we'll be happy to, with the board's consent, of course, sign up on those agreements when the time comes and get those vouchers filled with all of our community experiencing homelessness. I know I'm super excited about this project. I hope you guys are too. So those are my comments.
Yeah, we're continuing those discussions. Details are being worked out. As you can imagine, there's a lot of details between the coordinated entry sites, the various PHAs, but everybody's been very excited about moving forward to house our most vulnerable.
Thank you, Nikki. So I think what we're looking for today is approval from the board to allow me as the chair to, correct me, MAG staff if I'm wrong, just to sign off on these agreements before the deadline. We will not have time to meet again about that. So we need to get these MOUs signed. So if there aren't any questions or further discussions, I'd ask for a motion to approve the process to execute memorandums of understanding among the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Board and the Public Housing Authorities in compliance with the federal deadline of July 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Thank you, Bruce. We have a first. Do we have a second?
Second, Jackie Taylor.
Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. So we have a first and a second. Sarah, would you mind taking the roll call?
Absolutely, and I'll only read the board members that are present. Chair Ryan Balch.
Yay.
Thank you. Liz DaCosta.
Yay.
Thank you. Marshall Franklin.
Yay.
Thank you. Bruce Liggett.
Yay.
Thank you. Joan Service.
Yay.
Thank you. And Jackie Taylor.
Yay.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. I can't wait to come back to the board and present more on this as the project moves forward. Next, we have an opportunity to discuss various priority areas for new board member recruitment. Some areas that have been mentioned prior are a need to have a West Valley representative, an expert in racial equity and inclusion, and an LGBTQIA+ advocate. The board will discuss the seats to open for a new member recruitment and discuss a timeline to receive and consider applications. As a reminder, Wendy Johnston of the Justice Center made a public comment. Did you want me to go over that again, Sarah?
I'd be happy to just read it pretty quickly. She was hoping that she affirms the West Valley and also LGBTQ representation, but she also wanted to request that the board considered specialized needs of elderly and their growing numbers in homelessness and like to see someone working directly with the board. And that's all.
Okay, I appreciate that. And was there other presentation information from MAG staff, or are we opening it up to board members at this point to discuss?
Yep, just we're opening it up for discussion. Yep.
Okay, all right, board. How do we feel about this? Please identify yourself before speaking.
So, Ryan, maybe Sarah, could you summarize where we're at now with the numbers of members? Have people drop? Where are we today?
Absolutely. According to the charter, we can have a max of 14. Today we're at 11. So we've got some room. And then the priority areas will really be determined from what you all feel should be prioritized.
And Sarah, didn't we identify, isn't this part of our overall regional plan we're developing now? There was steps here to really start to look at the purpose, membership, composition, and all that. And so I really think we ought to have that process, except for a West Valley person. I guess, you know, being the county, it's very important now as we do these regional approaches that we have an entire side, half of the county feeling involved and at the table. And we had somebody from Glendale who was on, and that person moved on. And so we didn't replace that. So I thought we were kind of on pause, but I think replacing, I support pausing and figuring it out, but I think we ought to move ahead with a replacement from the West Valley. That's my position.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Any other comments from the board?
This is Joan.
Hi, Joan. You want to defer, Joan,
Sorry.
for a moment?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm doing two things at once, unfortunately, listening to the state legislature and we have to mute that tab. So my apologies.
No worries.
I think Bruce, this is Joan Service, Arizona Housing Coalition. I think Bruce is right. We need a West Valley representative. I agree with the aforementioned priority candidates. I would also offer up, and I hate to add to the mix, but I'm going to. We have had some discussions with the veteran serving community. And I think there might be an opportunity to, because the VA is a very top-down organization, I wonder if it would behoove us to consider that. So just something I offer up for consideration.
And to be clear, Joan, you're talking about representation of veterans in general or specifically of a federal veteran department?
Specifically, I'm wondering if it might be beneficial to have a VA representative from the Phoenix VA serve on the MAG board. Doesn't have to be this, this go round, but definitely something to consider for the future.
Okay, thanks, Joan. Other board members, comments?
Madam Chair, if I may? It's Amy.
Please.
Okay, great, thank you. So Madam Chair and board, so in reference to Bruce's comment about opening up the West Valley seat is simply filling a seat that's already established within the board and vacant and has been vacant for some time. It seems as though that one option could be to move forward immediately and open that solicitation, and then perhaps have the nominating subcommittee look at additional new seats that could be presented to the board for consideration to be added. Particularly, again, hearkening back to Bruce's comments, that with the regional strategies underway, we've come into contact with and have started to develop relationships with really diverse stakeholders from a number of different fields, all of whom perhaps could be considered as potential new members. And so having the nominating committee go through and really identify what are the priority areas to be considered, then they could report back to the board on that, perhaps towards the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, once the regional process has had a bit more time to really be fully fleshed out, but opening up the new member recruitment right away for the West Valley and then addressing that vote at your July board meeting could be one option for the board's consideration.
Thanks, Amy. How does that sound to people?
Well, so we had a West Valley, do you want me to put the chat hand up or how do you want to do it?
No, just go on out there.
So we had somebody in the West Valley representing a city. I didn't know if the plans would be to open that up entirely to anybody from the West Side or if it'd be for a city person, which would be what I would recommend at this point, to solicit from the cities.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the West Valley is aware we had somebody from a city on the board and that we haven't replaced it. I think it's getting more attention that not doing it than it really deserves, because we just haven't gotten to it. But yeah, is that what the thought is, to get a city person? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Thank you, Bruce.
Any additional comments? What I mean,
Should there be in terms of the nominating committee, so I'm for the West Valley individual, but we spend a lot of times people wanting different groups represented and at the table, and I get it, and I'm for that, but there's so many groups that we need to have a discussion. How big do we want this thing to be? Do we want it small? I think sitting and voting on the board is not the only way for us to hear actively from people all the time, and we ought to. We've got a committee structure that supports that. So that's the challenge, and that's a difficult conversation to have. Should we have that conversation first, or should we let our committees flesh that idea out of, I mean, we could have a board that's elected officials on it. I mean, we could, and you could construct it that way, or it could all just be direct providers, or some mix of that. So, I'm always looking for people who bring the most to the table in terms of their knowledge, their impact, their ability to change things in a major systemic way. And so that often lends itself to people that in elected or high-level public positions. So what's the right mix? I don't know. What were you thinking, Amy? Kind of like having a group fleshed out, maybe even the questions?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Madam Chair, Bruce and board, I think if the board wanted to offer any preliminary direction to the nominating committee, I think that would certainly be appropriate. But I do think having the smaller group really start to flesh out not just who or which entities, but also what are we wanting the board to do, you know, and to really have the members start to flesh that out and provide and have the board really provide that direction. First, having a smaller subset of board members really start to dig into what is the vision of the board moving forward, at what level do we see the board best operating, what kind of direction are they providing, what kind of role do they have in the broader community. I think all of those questions would be great to really be able to have more in-depth discussion, and then to be able to pull together some recommendations for the board's further discussion and consideration would be very productive.
That's where I recall that we left off after we completed our mission, vision, values. Our next step was to dive in. Now that we know, you know, who we want to be and what we want to accomplish, which is somewhat different than how we saw ourselves previously. Then we were going to sort of dive into our structures. And one of those is, how do our committees work, and who are, you know, what memberships do we need on the board to accomplish these new goals? So I think we're there at the point where we need to be looking at that now. And I'm not sure if nominating committee is the exact right space, because I'm just not sure who makes up the nominating committee. But I think the board needs to say, okay, now that we understand this about ourselves and who we see ourselves as going forward, what's the process for deciding, you know, expanding ourselves? We obviously need different representation than we have in the past because we have new goals. So, but I do think, as everyone has mentioned, that we shouldn't go forward without our West Valley partners. And I think it'll be incumbent upon the West Valley also to have a level of discussion about how they can, if there's only going to be one position for the West Valley at the moment, how do they want to handle that too, to make sure that they are all represented well as well. So what I feel like I'm hearing is that the board would like to move forward, at least for now, with the West Valley position. And then I would love to know more about what that process would look like, Amy. And then also some urgency for the board to come back together in some format, whether it's a small group or whatever, and say, okay, how are we gonna, let's plan the rest of our seats out based on our new goals. I'm seeing some head nods. Okay. If that is true, is anyone ready to make a motion in that direction?
I make a motion that we move forward on filling the West Valley board membership. And then I believe well, I'll make that first. Well, I'll amend the motion to say, and then we want to look at the next recruitment process aligned with our mission, vision, and values and where we are at.
Thank you, Joan. Perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. So we have a first from Joan and a second from Jackie. Sarah, can I ask you to please take the roll call?
Absolutely. And Chair Ryan Balch.
Yay.
Great. Liz DaCosta.
Yay.
Thank you. Marshall Franklin.
Yay.
Thank you. Bruce Liggett.
Yay.
Thank you. Joan Service.
Yay.
Thank you. Jackie Taylor.
Yay.
Excellent. And the motion passes.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And MAG staff, will you be letting us know how we will move forward with that process? Or
Madam Chair, yes, absolutely. We'd be happy to offer some suggestions for your feedback, and then to present those at the July board meeting. And
okay, perfect.
ready to take your direction on that, but we're happy to do some legwork for you to help inform those decisions.
Okay, let me ask one more question if it's not out of line at this point. Do we need to, are we able to empower you to move forward with that recruitment process so we don't have to wait until another decision is made in July?
For the remaining seats?
Just no, for the West Valley.
Oh, no, we are fine to move forward with the West Valley now.
Okay.
And so we will open up that
You're gonna, okay.
Right, so
All
we'll stop that recruitment, and then we'll bring the decision to you at your July
Okay.
board meeting, but the process is ready to move forward with your direction.
Perfect. Sorry, I misunderstood. Thank you for that clarification. And I appreciate you guys working to get that out so we can get our West Valley partners on board as soon as possible. A lot of really exciting things coming out of the West Valley and a lot of really strong leaders there. So I look forward to having them back on board. All right. Make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, we're at coordinated entry. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Nikki Stevens and Amy St. Peter with MAG will provide an update on current and emerging opportunities to maximize the effectiveness of the coordinated entry system with stakeholder input. The board will have an opportunity to offer input to guide this activity, including identifying board representation on a project management team. Amy and Nikki.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. We're happy to bring this item to you, and I encourage Nikki to jump in at any point with your comments and feedback. So obviously there's a lot of really good work underway with coordinated entry, a lot of really good leaders involved in this entire system, and it is truly a system. It's not about any one agency, but it's about the way that we work with one another. The board has been very interested in strengthening that coordinated entry process, particularly as it pertains to a racial equity lens. And so that work is continuing through Racial Equity Partners and Julie Montoya on our staff, among others. So very excited to be able to support the ongoing work. In addition, as we have been developing the strategies then as part of the enhanced regional response to homelessness, we've heard additional comments about some possibilities then to further strengthen the coordinated entry system. And so really taking a look at it from that whole systems level and working at various levels. So for example, one of the pieces of feedback that we've received from a number of stakeholders is might there be an opportunity to further assess the screening tool, the VI SPDAT tool that's used? Are there other tools that might really help us in this regard, particularly given that our current tool will be reaching end of life in terms of its support? So I think that we've been learning a lot as we've been implementing this coordinated entry, and that there are opportunities to then implement those lessons learned. We have held meetings then with the lead agencies on the single side as well as on the family side, and received their support and taking a look at what that assessment might include, really listening to the lead agencies as having very, very good feedback into what opportunities they see to further refine this process. Of course, wanting to work with the coordinated entry subcommittee and really looking to all of the partners and the providers particularly in helping us to understand how we might further evolve coordinated entry. So we'd love to take a have this discussion with you, to hear any feedback that you might have, any priorities that you might have as we consider how might we strengthen coordinated entry. This is one of the 14 strategies that was that you voted to adopt last month, and it is part of the strategy portfolio that you also voted to accept last month. So this work is continuing, but we wanted to provide this opportunity particularly because it is within the board's purview to monitor and to evaluate coordinated entry. And so we want to conduct a formal assessment of that system, again, leveraging the great assessment that's already underway through the racial equity work and broadening that to the entire system at all levels, looking for those opportunities to further evolve the system. So we're looking for any feedback that you might have, as well as any volunteers that might want to help by serving on a team that would really undertake this analysis, and we would work closely with you and provide regular updates to the board. Nikki, do you have anything to add from your perspective, the meetings that you've held?
No, not at this time. I would just add, with the VI SPDAT, we know that the original org code may be sunsetting that tool, so we may not have the technical assistance either to continue to implement it. Also, to Amy's point, that we know that there's some disparities that exist within that tool that have affected a majority of people of color that are coming into the homeless response system.
Great, thank you very much, Nikki. So, Madam Chair, back to you and to the board for any direction that you might want to provide on this activity. Oh, you're on mute, Ryan.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So thanks you guys for that presentation. Board members, comments, questions?
This
I
is,
know
Liz.
oh,
Oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Liz,
sorry.
please. No,
Yeah.
please.
I don't have enough information about what's out there or what the work that's been done right now, but I would be interested in volunteering time to take part in trying to assess what we can do in this area.
Thank you very much, Liz. We'll be sure to take you up on that. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad Liz is doing that because she knows, and then we'll get other folks who really know. I was just slipping back into time. You know, I've been with the county going on 8 years now, and I remember remaking connections as I began to work on homelessness for the county. And that wasn't that long ago. And I was saying, wait a minute, so what are the needs of these people? What's their acuity level? Well, we don't really know. Or we have this thing, VI SPDAT, and it takes a lot of, and so everybody was getting trained and there was only certain people who could do it. It was just really messy and slow, and we finally established something. We've come a long way that now we're finally relooking back at what's the best tool we can be using. And I hope that as we do this, we also look at some of the operational challenges. You know, how do you, we get buried in our own complexity sometime. Yeah. And I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of accuracy for simplicity, not to compromise or have negative consequences for the use of an instrument, certainly. But, you know, if we get too deep, and if it takes 16 hours to administer, we're not going to be able to have a good tool. So what's going to be accurate, reliable, and easy to use and report on. So good discussion.
And may I add, also equitable. You know, only because when we're seeing the outcomes, they have not been equitable. So I just wanted to make sure that's staying on our minds as well. And we are looking at other communities across the country that have made, you know, amendments to their VI SPDATs that include a racial equity component. So I just want to keep that in mind as well. We know, Bruce, I was there in those early days of trying to figure this out, pick a tool, implement it, but I just wanted to keep that in our language as well. Thank you.
That's kind of what I meant by the negative impact on groups. Well, is there a summary, Nikki, of what you've learned in terms of the limitation of the VI SPDAT, in terms of like, in terms of people of color or communities? It's somebody looked at this and said, we found out X, Y, Z, like.
That's exactly. So if you look at our racial equity plan that was developed by Racial Equity Partners, there is knowledge around what the disparities within our own community. So there was deep dive into our data with HMIS. There was a deep dive into people with lived experience and in interviewing them. There was a deep dive into interviewing people of color. So all of that with quantitative and qualitative analysis have come up with the conclusion that this tool does create disparities within not only our system, because nationally it was looked at as well through, I'm going to blank on the name of the organization. There was another organization. And at that time, TJ and I were having these discussions way before it was even talked about nationally. And they started looking into these disparities. So TJ has also been a part of those original discussions that we had and the disparities that we discovered locally. But I'm welcome to provide you with any documentation or any additional feedback that you need, Bruce, but we do have that locally from HMIS.
I didn't know if there was like a summary, like VI SPDAT is overall X% valid, but for people of color, it's less by this much valid. It's been down to that level of data to conclude it's not the right instrument.
Okay, so yeah, it was Community Innovation C4 that did a deeper dive with nationally and compared cities, but I can give you some data points, Bruce, locally as well.
Thank you. It was the Spark study out of C4
the Spark
Innovation.
study. I can't believe I forgot that. I was blanking on that. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Bruce, and thanks, Nikki and Sarah. Jackie, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I would hope from a family perspective, we could arrive at a tool that does a much better job of assessing the needs of a family as a system and the complexities of that, which would lead to a more accurate, better placement for families. So let's not forget those families in there as we're talking about these changes.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll certainly keep that in mind along with the racial equity focus and particularly looking at this from a data-driven approach, making sure that we can demonstrate the metrics well.
And I think Marshall had something to
Yeah.
say, then we can.
Thank you, Nikki. Marshall, are you out there?
Trying to get the mute, the unmute, turn the camera on, turn the camera off.
I
I'm
know.
telling you, it's just, I don't know about y'all, but it's cray cray around here. So I was just gonna say that the city of Phoenix is fully supportive. I will ask Tamara to work on the whole efforts around reviewing coordinated entry and that kind of thing. So that was all, just letting you know Phoenix is supportive and will serve as a part of the team however we can.
Perfect.
Thank
And
you.
Amy, I assume you're looking for team members from throughout the continuum, is that correct?
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make sure that our discussion is sort of focused on the tool, the VI SPDAT, and also racial equity lens. But are we also going to, I'm also concerned personally about the systems aspect and just allowing flexibilities to allow communities to have input. And I mean, I fully support coordinated entry and want us to use it fruitfully as a region. But I think I'm hoping part of the assessment will also be at how do we make it flexible enough for every unique community, whether that's geographically bound or population bound or any other form of community. How do we make it, the coordinated entry system, responsive to that particular community's needs? And how can we just incorporate more of that? So okay, I'm getting a lots of nod from you. And then so my follow-up question is this going to be a contract? Are you doing an RFP? What is that going to look like?
Absolutely. So Madam Chair and members of the board, we are looking at wanting to bring on some additional consultant assistance, and that would be through a competitive RFP. So as we start fleshing out the details of that, we'll be sure to work closely with you and would love for you to be a full partner in that process.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Any other comments before we, actually, this is not an action item, correct? Just a discussion?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. If there aren't any other comments, last chance to wave those cute little yellow hands at me. All right. I'm going to move on. I have a million screens going too, so forgive me. All right, Ty. Ty Rosensteel, committee member and director of HMIS and data resources at Solari, will provide an update on the Learning and Action in Policy Partnership, or LAP, and the draft LAP charter. Ty.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Ty Rosensteel. I'm the director of HMIS and database resources at Solari Crisis and Human Services, previously Crisis Response Network. I am here to give an information and discussion conversation around the LAP project. I'm got a few talking points for you, but while I talk, I would like to request that you pull up the governance document that was included in today's agenda packet. It's included in, it's on the MAG website and also in the agenda packet starting towards the end of the document. So the exciting update that I've got for today is that each of the 3 continuums of care in Arizona, plus HMIS leads, plus DES and Access, the Arizona Housing Coalition and HUD-TA have been meeting informally since the fall of 2020 to investigate the creation of a statewide HMIS data warehouse. The board and the committees have been briefed on this project in the past. The primary goals of the data warehouse would be to better understand the nature of homelessness in Arizona and also to develop person-centered coordination across multiple systems of care that may require data sharing across those systems. In December, we had requested that this Continuum of Care board authorize a letter of support for this work and to look for seed funding for the project. And I believe this is the first formal notification to the board that initial funding was approved, and we have $100,000 granted to the Arizona Housing Coalition on behalf of our continuums of care to move this project forward. And I'm also happy to share that in addition to that initial funding around planning, a private philanthropic funder is interested to fully fund the build of the warehouse. So, I'm really happy about this. It looks like that this idea that we have, that we are all in support of, very likely may become a reality here in our future. And as such, the informal collaborative group decided that it was time to move the group from being that informal collaboration into a formal group that would be able to build the data warehouse. So as such, we're looking to assemble a diverse and representative group of people that can provide input on behalf of the continuums of care, HMIS leads, governing entities, clients, and all of the contributing providers. So attached in today's agenda packet is a collaborative governance framework that each of our continuum of care boards and departments participating in this collaborative project would be signing to authorize this group to be able to start making decisions and make recommendations of how to go about building a statewide data warehouse. An important piece is that the key activities of this group are time limited. So it is a group that is being assembled to build the data warehouse and the protocols, but with that will come permanent governance. So the group would provide a recommendation to the continuum of care boards around what a permanent governance structure would be. So in the key activities section, it outlines the key activities that we would be making decisions on and that the group would be providing input on, but it also outlines the things that would trigger the dissolution of this group or the conversation around dissolving this group and transitioning to a more permanent structure. In the governance framework, it also describes the composition of the group, that there would be representative composition equal from each of the continuums of care. It outlines attendance expectations for those persons, voting expectations, ensuring that a single continuum of care couldn't get completely overridden. There's a provision that says with equal representation, there must be at least one consenting vote from each continuum of care for an item to move past that group and on to our continuums for a formal approval. It also outlines a code of conduct saying that persons that are selected for this may not participate in any financial gain from actually building a data warehouse or violating any of the federal procurement rules or any of the continuum of care board regulations that come from HUD around the interim rules. And it also outlines what the amendment process would look like for making any changes to this governance agreement and what like a overall restructure might look like. So the document was developed in a collaborative fashion between the people that were participating in this informal group. It also has been reviewed and approved by HUD technical assistance provider. And at this point, we're looking to do this in a two-step process. The first is presenting the document to each of our governing bodies for feedback, and that is what we're soliciting today. The document has been presented to the data subcommittee as well as the continuum of care committee, and there was extensive feedback provided from those groups. We also are collecting feedback from the other continuums of care concurrently. And what we're looking to do is basically get to a place where all feedback has been collected so that we can present a final document next month that would be the same document presented to the other continuums of care that would not need revision. So really the opportunity for feedback on this document is today at this meeting, because we're going to get a reconciled document that would then be proposed as an item for action on next month's agenda. Because we went into such detail at the data subcommittee and also the continuum of care committee, we had discussed not bringing the document up and going through it line by line, but just having it as an opportunity for the board to provide any discussion or further feedback if you had any. So at this point, I'll turn it back over to Ryan I am available if you have any questions or feedback.
Thanks, Ty. That was a lot of information. Appreciate that. Board members, questions, comments?
This is Jackie. I just have a comment that this is absolutely amazing. And I think it's something that we've been hoping for years. And I personally can't tell you how excited I am that this is getting off the ground. So thanks to everybody that's working so hard to pull this together. I know how complex it must be working with such diverse groups and, you know, geographically different needs and all that, but I'm just supercharged about it. So many thanks. I did look at the document and from my perspective, I don't profess to be an expert. I thought it looked very well crafted.
Thanks, Jackie. Other members?
Knowing how much we value our relationship with Ty and Solari, formerly called 211. Is that the official name now? The long one? Do you have any concerns, Ty? Are there items going into this that you say, hey, I'm not going to negotiate around this, or are you comfortable, I guess is really what I'm asking on behalf of us.
So I can speak from a just a personal basis of working collaboratively with this group. This was a document that was done from a very collaborative standpoint, and every item that I had concerns about, the group made adjustments for. And also vice versa, that when other persons had concerns in areas where they were not comfortable, they also were able to have their voice heard, and we made an adjustment. So the document is very representative of a group that wants to see something like this happen, and that I think it's a great idea. Personally, Bruce, I think this is great because it sets a framework for taking the informal collaboration and just formalizing it a little bit more. It's not something that authorizes this group to make any fiduciary decisions. There's no liability decisions. Each of the continuums retain all of their decision-making autonomy. What this does is it just says, how are we going to move forward if one of our teammates isn't there, right? Or how are we going to make sure that there's equal voice from all of the parties that are present, so that nobody feels like they are being ignored. So this project, I think, is a great project, and I really like the approach that we're taking around creating some formalization in a process early on, rather than trying to create a formal process after we've already started making big decisions.
Thumbs up from Bruce. All right. Thanks, Ty. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Ty, congratulations on, and everybody who's been involved. Congratulations on putting this together and receiving funding. That's really says something about our community and where we're going and the trust that we're establishing to be able to have this data warehouse and really allowing us to be data driven as we move forward. So congrats and thank you for leading the way, leading the charge. We'll be running right after you. You just let us know where to go. You let us know where to run. All right. All right. Moving on. An update will be provided on legislative issues of interest, as well as Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Subcommittee chairs and members will provide an update on the recent activity. This item was requested as an ongoing agenda item by the COC board to remain informed and about the work taking place both legislatively and in the various subcommittees, if there's an update to present. So we know there's always an update at the legislature. Joan, Executive Director of the Arizona Housing Coalition and member of our board, would you please present?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Gosh, I was hoping this would be a sine die report where the legislature was done, but unfortunately that is not the case. Last week, I'm going to try and stay high level so that if there's any questions, you guys can just ask away. But last week, the legislature approved the largest tax cut in Arizona history, and they considered 11 budget bills. 9 of them passed. There's a couple that remain outstanding. There is a new amount this is of note for some of our nonprofit partners, that there is a new amount for charitable tax credit. It's now going to be adjusted for inflation. And there was the previously vetoed bills around the senior shelter, West Valley Senior Shelter, that is went back for consideration, and it wasn't really vetoed by the governor. He was just forcing the legislature's hand. Now, I will say that, one of the two big priorities that the Arizona Coalition focused in on was restoring the state housing trust fund and enacting a state low-income housing tax credit. We knew this legislative session, restoring the housing trust fund would be an uphill battle because of the federal influx of funds. And frankly, the legislature also considered that in their funding. So the budget that was passed did not include any significant new investments towards housing and homelessness. But as you might recall, we're focused in on the state affordable housing tax credit enactment. Members of the legislature asked that provision that was once included in the budget be removed from the budget. And so it is actually up in the House. That's why I'm toggling back and forth between the different screens. It is up for consideration in the House today. A separate bill, it's Senate Bill 1124. It's actually, it was, like I said, removed from the budget process. And Senate Bill 1124 has both our state low-income housing tax credit and an angel investment tax credit bill. If I'm not paid to be a prognosticator, and I can't read tea leaves. We do have both House Republican and Democratic support for the state affordable housing tax credit. But I will tell you that it's June 28th. Our lawmakers are sick of being down there. They're ready to go home and do other things. And so I'm hopeful that we get this bill passed. But work at the state legislature is not a sprint. It's not. If we are not successful, unfortunately, we'll soon become one of the minority states as more and more states are enacting a state tax credit. But there's always next year. I'm not willing to say we're done, but I hopefully we have more to report in the next 24 hours of some good progress. But with that, if you have, it's not too late to text or email your legislator and let them know that they should be supporting Senate Bill 1124, which is the COW amendment for the state affordable housing tax credit. So with that, I'll happy to entertain any questions or comments.
Thanks, Joan. Questions, comments?
Boy, what a strange session for you, Joan, and way to hang in there right up till the end. Did anything ever come of that incoherent camping bill? Did that find itself anywhere in a burb or any of the? No, not for this session, but we know it's something that we need to remain vigilant against for next legislative session. That group did find success at the Texas legislature. And so that might put a cap or a feather in their cap to move forward in doing it again. So we just need to be more or eyes wide open next legislative session. Yeah.
Anyone else? Thanks, Joan. I know you must be tired. It's been a long one.
Well, it's fine. I'm also happy to give a federal update if you guys want to.
Sure, please.
2 minutes? Okay. Just as I think everyone is very aware, the CDC extended the moratorium till the end of July. and enacted a whole government approach, which basically puts a lot of emphasis. I know that the White House is convening a small work group sometime this week to look at engaging some of our judicial partners in ensuring the emergency rental assistance gets out the door. The hope is that with another month, we're going to get more ERA out the door. Obviously, there was Senator Sinema has been quite involved in brokering the infrastructure package. The infrastructure package, unfortunately, did not include significant affordable housing investments as we were hopeful of, but a lot of those are included in President Biden's American Jobs Plan Act. So while Senator Sinema has historically been an ending homelessness and affordable housing advocate, that infrastructure package didn't include that key component, those key, like I think it's $213 billion in affordable housing investments. But again, the jobs plan does. That coupled with the budget that is being negotiated in Congress makes significant investments towards our affordable housing and ending homelessness sector. So some good news there. And I want to thank all of you all, those folks that attended the National Alliance to End Homelessness Capitol Hill Day that was held a couple of days ago virtually. Good conversations, good networking, and good relationship building with our congressional housing and ending homelessness policy staff members. So once again, thank you all.
Thanks so much, Joan. Appreciate everything you do all the time to keep us in the game there. All right, next we will hear from Coordinated Entry Subcommittee Chair Matthew Kelly, Lead Housing Liaison with Mercy Care. Matthew?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to what's going on with Coordinated Entry. Just want to give a few ongoing updates. The first one is with regards to the prevention work group, where we're working to integrate prevention into the Coordinated Entry system. At this point, we do have a draft policy and a draft tool that we're looking to implement. And we're going to be scheduling meetings with the core group that met initially. And then in addition to that, asking the other prevention providers to join in the discussion to review both the policies and the tools and kind of decide what the next steps to move forward are with that. And thankfully, we've been super lucky to have Christy Parker, who is kind of leading that discussion, making sure we're kind of in alignment with how the prevention funds should be used. The racial equity group, and this isn't a lot with what was already been said, but we've been working with racial equity partners to identify a number of different communities in the nation who have already changed or modified the VI-SPDAT, whether it's a new tool or modifying the existing tool with some additional, whether it's another tool or changing the prioritization, the use of the prioritization. So we're going to be looking to schedule a 2-hour meeting with a number of communities the last 2 weeks of July next month to kind of get an overview of what those communities have already been doing. So that should feed pretty nicely into some of the work that's already being done with the work that you guys are doing an RFP on. So I think we'll probably want to get together to make sure that we're not double dipping on some of the things to make sure that we're all kind of using our time wisely. The Coordinated Entry Subcommittee also has recently, we discussed and met, and our meetings have been once a month for the last 1.5 or 2 years. And more recently, we've decided that the agendas have been getting longer and more detailed. And so we actually are changing the frequency of the Coordinated Entry Subcommittee to once every 2 weeks. It looks like we've settled on a Thursday. And instead of meeting for 1.5 hours each time, we're going to be meeting for 1 hour each time to kind of shorten that meeting. In addition to that, we're kind of looking at how to format the meeting so that there's typically going to be like an update meeting or kind of like a discussion meeting, and then a more action-focused meeting, which would be specifically reviewing policies, procedures, or other documents to make sure that we're kind of balancing the work, but also being effective in our time use. And then one of the other things that came out of the last board meeting was a discussion surrounding the membership needs for the Coordinated Entry Subcommittee. And as part of that, what I did in collaboration with Nikki was to come up with more or less a matrix that I sent out to the entire subcommittee just to get an idea of a number of factors, which areas of the city they're representing, which areas, whether it's racial equity related, and then also the actual committee portion that they're representing within the coordinated entry subcommittee. And I kind of wanted to just go ahead and kind of share kind of like a high level review of what we kind of found out with regards to the recommended membership categories on the coordinated entry subcommittee. And those are actually the different categories that are referenced in the governance document. We currently have two sections that are not represented in any way, shape, or form, and those are the CRRC and then also the funder category. And then in addition to that, we have representation from other areas, but members were added under other membership categories, so there would be opportunities to potentially add the positions in those areas. Those include access point, family provider, single provider, and then also ESG provider. And then with regards to the regional piece, we kind of set out, which portion of the Valley are you as an organization representing and kind of, serving. Those regional sections came back showing that we had a pretty even distribution throughout the entire Valley as far as that representation was concerned. So it seemed to be pretty even, although I think we want to just keep an eye on that as we're kind of moving forward and adding new members just to make sure that we're continuing to have a balance within the community. And then on the racial equity side of things, we did find out pretty clearly that I think we could definitely benefit from some additional representation in those areas, just because we're underrepresented in my opinion. And then also persons with lived experience. We did have individuals with lived experience on the subcommittee. However, again, I think that's an area that we could also consider beefing up or increasing as far as the committee is concerned. So based upon all of that, I have a couple of recommendations, and I'm not sure how the board is with that, but one of the things I think I'd like to be able to do is for the existing recommended membership categories from the governance document that are missing, I'd like to be able to put a call out for some members. Right now, we currently have 7 members on the coordinated entry subcommittee, and there's a capacity of 13. So we're really low at this point in time, and with I think a lot of the work that's being done, it would be great to start adding some members. That being said, I think as far as moving forward with adding positions related to racial equity and also persons with lived experience, I think we want to also consider that, but that might be a position where we might want to be adding some additional positions, and I'm not sure if that's something that as a subcommittee we can do without the board's approval to do that. So I kind of wanted to get your all's feedback with regards to that and see where things were at.
Thanks, Matthew. My recollection is that we had asked for staff to go back to each committee and have each committee discuss their membership needs. And then that we were going to look at that from each committee and see if there was, any common commonalities, and see if there was like an overall broader reaching guidance that needed to be given, or if we wanted to just say, hey, the recommendations of each committee look right, let them go forward. And if staff could just I know that you guys did have those discussions at your subcommittees. But I'm not sure that we've seen sort of a summary back. Is there someone that might be able to just provide us a little update on that?
Right, yes, all the subcommittees were told to send any feedback to me. I have not received anything yet outside of what Matthew has just said. So we'll keep encouraging the subcommittees to send me some feedback, but we haven't received anything aside from coordinated entry.
Okay, so in the meantime, I feel like at least coordinated entry is wanting to move forward with some recommendation, like wanting to move forward to fill some spots. So do you have a recommendation about how the board might take action on that? What has the history of how they fill spots been?
Well, so with regards to the coordinated entry subcommittee, there's typically supposed to be a call once per year for membership, unless that membership drops below, I believe 8 is the number per the governance document, in which case then they can do an immediate call for new members. Like I said, I think we should be safe in making the recommendation to call for those recommended membership categories pretty easily. And I think take into consideration who's applying and how they fit into some of those additional categories like the racial equity piece and also persons with lived experience. But I still think it's important to consider adding some additional positions. I just don't know if I want to stop a call for those already existing open positions, if that makes sense.
It really does. Thank you. So I'm thinking I would suggest to the board that perhaps like we did in the broader category, you know, we're looking at things, we have this opportunity coming up to really have some good objective analysis of coordinated entry and how we might enhance it as together as a region. But I don't want to hold up all the good work that you're already doing. And so like in the other categories or like in the board recruitment, might we as a board consider just having the coordinated entry subcommittee move forward with filling the spots that are vacant now. And then along with our look at our more broad look at at the positions we want to put on the governing board, we should also be looking at whether the committees need some additional or different types of positions. But I hate to stop the good work you're doing now. How does the board feel about that?
Yeah.
You need a motion for that, Ryan?
I don't know, staff. Is this meant to, I don't know that we can take action,
Not today.
right? And
Madam
or do they even need us to take action on that? Or is that already their policy and they can just move forward?
Madam Chair, they can
would say
certainly
it's-
move forward.
Okay.
These are existing seats that are currently vacant, so they can absolutely move forward. And I think the board offering that direction is entirely appropriate given the way that that it appears on the agenda today.
Okay.
But that no motion is required or needed at this time.
Well, I think, Matthew, that you guys have our blessing unless I see any shaking heads and moving forward with all your good work, and then also our commitment to you to take your greater needs into consideration as we look at new membership.
Thank you. And I just want to make a point that even though we're going to be adding those existing positions, I think we're going to continue to ask questions regarding racial equity and lived experience, just to see as we're adding new members, if they're bringing that experience to the table already, so we kind of know what the makeup of our committee is as we move forward.
Great idea. Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you.
that. I didn't ask the board, were there any questions or comments for Matthew? We certainly appreciate all the good work you guys are doing behind the scenes and your willingness to come in and give us an update.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Moving on, we will hear from Maggie Wong, research analyst with MAG, on an update of the Hand Up dashboard and the new advancements.
Hi, good afternoon,
Maggie.
everyone. Yeah, just wanted to remind you all that the Homelessness Assets and Needs Data for Unified Planning, or Hand Up interactive tool, launched earlier this month. It's a map viewer that brings together different data around homelessness for regional planning. Right up front, it shows programs and services from the 211 database and housing inventory count. So these are programs that are targeted to or frequented by people experiencing homelessness. I did want to highlight one feature today, just in case some of you haven't had the chance to explore it. So give me just a second to share my screen. Will let me know if you can see that? Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the map layers tool. So this is something we added for launch, and basically it brings in contextual data from the census, from HMIS, and other data sources, just as a starting point for analysis. So for example, we've got some demographic characteristics of 62 years and over, poverty level, median household income. You can click on any one of these to turn on like a background map to show you which areas in the region. So for this one, where are more people experiencing poverty. And we've got some HMIS data as well. We've got street outreach locations. We've got 211 calls data. We've got, shelter beds, housing units from the HIC. And then we also bring in some other data that we're calling kind of the at-risk data. So that's looking at 211 calls for rental assistance, for utility assistance. We've got evictions data by zip code, unemployment. So there's just a lot to explore here, and I wanted to make sure that you all know that it's available through the tool. We are working on additional enhancements as well, including a reporting function that may take another month or so, but we'll definitely keep you all updated on that. We're hoping to have kind of summaries for different levels of geography so that, you know, you could select a city or town and see what services are available there. But yeah, and I wanted to thank those of you who did send in comments and feedback. We really, really appreciate it. We are still carefully reviewing suggestions that are coming in with the 2-on-1 team. So thanks to Ty's team for working with us, because since a lot of this data is coming straight from 2-on-1, we are simultaneously updating the 2-on-1 database along with this tool. So we're just making sure that things are coming in correctly. So if you have any other questions or comments or suggestions, please feel free to contact me or any of the COC staff team. Thanks.
Thanks, Maggie. So I will just, great job to you and your team and everyone who worked on this. I will just say to the rest of the board members, if you haven't gotten in there and played with it a little bit, take 5 minutes to cheer yourself up. It's super cool and fun to play with. You get to click here and click there, and you can click your city and someone else's city and a population and or food, and you can just see everything that's available. It really gives you a neat perspective. And also, you know, it tells you where some gaps are. So it's a really neat tool. I know I'm just going to ask this for the benefit of everybody, Maggie, and I know I've already asked some questions via email and stuff, so forgive me if I'm duplicating, but I remember when you were putting this together and we all gave like, oh, that agency is not doing that anymore, or, you know, oh, you missed this one over here. And I still don't see some of that. And I don't honestly know if we didn't get it right or if because you decided to go with like 2-1-1. And ultimately the question is just, should we re-provide that kind of data, or is there a way to put it in there? Or
so no, yeah, thanks for bringing that up again.
Yeah.
What I'll do is that, Ryan, I'll look at your emails again just to double check, but I think you should go ahead and re-provide the data. We did a thorough check, but we might have missed a couple things just because there was a lot going on when we were.
Well, I don't honestly know. I mean, I said to different staff, oh, get this in there. You know, I don't know what actually came through or didn't. I just wanted to know if there was a way, if we saw something that we think should be in there. It's no longer like it used to be where you went and you tried to put it in, right? Now we just provide the information to you.
That's right. So you can either email us directly. There also is on the left sidebar, there is a new feedback button, and it just comes up with a general, you know, just a comment box, but just be as specific as possible, and we'll review that and update it as soon as possible.
And are there criteria? So if it's a very localized, like something that you know that a group in your, you know, area is doing, but maybe they're not, I don't know, maybe they're not incorporated, or maybe they're not, I don't know, they just don't advertise a lot. Are those kinds of things okay to put on there? Or do you have some criteria?
I can't think off the top of my head a specific criteria, but it needs to match the 2-on-1 criteria for being included in their database.
Okay, so it does need to be in their database.
Yeah. So I think some of the smaller, more sporadic events we are not putting on here. They should be pretty regularly offered services and programs.
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
Perfect. Our providers are, you know, moving around a lot. So I think they get lost. You know, every time a resource comes out, eventually something changes and it gets lost. So I just want to make sure folks know how to keep that up to date.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely would appreciate ongoing feedback. If you notice something's missing, definitely just go ahead and shoot us an email.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions from the board? Has anyone played with it?
I know a few have because we've received a couple emails.
Right?
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Maggie. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay. So it looks like we're looking at what our next agendas should look like. Do any board members have any actions or discussions for future meetings they would like to see? Sounds like we definitely have some future look at board membership and committee membership. Something that definitely will be on our radar.
Madam Chair, it's Amy. May I offer 2 additional updates?
Please.
Great, thank you. This isn't necessarily for your next agenda item, but just to keep, just to highlight 2 items to make sure that everyone's in the loop on these activities. Last week, we sent out an email to all of you to let you know that we are opening up community applications for anyone that's a current member of the Heat Relief Network or would like to become a member of the Heat Relief Network and would like to receive $10,000 in order to be able to purchase water. That water would be distributed to vulnerable people who are needing assistance during these intense summer months. This is all thanks to a sponsorship received from Arizona Lottery. Want to raise that to your attention for 2 reasons. 1, to see if you know of anyone who might like to apply. And then 2, also we will have an evaluation team coming together on Thursday afternoon to review the applications that are submitted by close of business Wednesday. So this is a very tight turnaround time because we're very focused on making sure that we can get the water out into the communities as quickly as possible. The evaluation team will be selecting up to 5 different entities representing geographic balance throughout the region to receive the funds of $10,000 each. And we would be notifying the selected applicants of their status by July 2nd. So again, very quick turnaround times, but we really want to make sure that we're able to get the money out as quickly as possible so we can get the water out as quickly as possible. So if anyone would like to help us by serving on that evaluation team, please do let me know. We'd be happy to have you join our team. We'll have a very simple process to quickly review the applications while maintaining a good level of fiscal stewardship. So I wanted to raise that. And then also, we'd love to come back and offer an update on the development of the tactics in support of the regional homelessness action plan. We do have a team that will be meeting over the summer in that regard. And we do have a meeting this Thursday to review the initial analysis from the regional scenarios, as well as to talk about what that process would look like. So just wanted to let you all know that activity is very much continuing in full force. And if anyone has any questions or would like to provide any feedback on any aspect of this work, please do feel free to reach out at any time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
On that note, Amy, I'd like to thank you and your staff for, I've seen you at lots of council meetings, supervisors meetings, that kind of thing, giving updates in person to our elected officials to let them know what's going on. And I know there's been lots of meetings with lots of people and lots of ongoing feedback. So thank you guys so much for keeping this very important momentum that we have going. And I'm glad we're, going to be very active through the summer. So it's not going to be a sit down summer for anybody, that's for sure.
No.
Thank
you very much, Madam Chair. Our whole team is working really hard on this, and we're very appreciative of the opportunities to partner with external stakeholders. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. And that's let me see if I can do it now. I was gonna say it's probably just a good time to let everybody know that we are having our July meeting on the 26th as scheduled. I know lots of us, I think including me, will be at a beach somewhere. But we will, but please, if you can participate, please come virtually, as we do have quite an agenda for the 26th. And are there any other announcements or comments from the board?
Ryan?
Yes.
I could do a couple quick updates. So the county's safe outdoor space, our voluntary tent lots, which were created as part of the response to the pandemic, officially closed. Evening of the 16th, there were no people sleeping there. So as we planned, I think I've told people before that over the 13-month course of the safe outdoor space, over 800 people used the lots, and people were provided water, hand washing, PPE, of course, toilets. So we obviously wanted to phase that out before the hot heat hit. Didn't quite hit it. Heat came quick this year and really had us all scrambling. But everybody in that lot, from the time we announced the phase out, over 200 people were offered an indoor place where we'd continue to work with them on permanent solutions. And I think about 75% took advantage of that, which I was really pleased with. And so the Human Service Campus did an amazing job of implementing this. We were all learning. This is the first time I've ever had a camping area that was allowed. That's why I was being vigilant with the camping bill. When I spoke to the lobbyist for that bill, he called me and he says, well, you seem to know a lot about operating tents for homeless people. I said, yes, and I'm not sure I'll ever do that again. Anyhow, I think we had a successful ending, and that's good. And then the related is that we've expanded what we're doing for evening heat relief. We've been providing funding to the Human Service Campus for 140 people to spend the nights indoors at the LDRC and the St. Vincent Dining Room. Then St. Vincent offered up and initiated a conversation to have at their Watkins campus heat relief. So we have contracted with them for up to 200 people a night, with transportation being provided back and forth between the campus. City of Phoenix put a shade structure down there by the campus because some people are staying during the day. People are so welcomed by St. Vincent. They've got little notes, have a nice night on there. I mean, it's just, they set the environment. And so far, when we did this last year for the county property, it took us about a month or longer to ramp up with the heat. We got up to 150 people really quick. I think we've had a maximum of 160 already, but the last 4 days has been about 150 average. So that's going well. And the provider community just always steps up. So.
That's great, Bruce. Congratulations, and thank you for doing so much work there. Is that only open on like above a certain temperature, or is it open for the summer?
Through September 30th every night.
That's awesome. Oh, thank you for announcing that. All right. Others? I hope you guys get $10,000 worth of water.
I think we may need 10,000 bottles of wine.
Yeah, and wine. All right. Anyone else have announcements? No, everybody's ready to get on with their Monday afternoon. All right. So again, just remember we are meeting July 26th. Please make sure you let Sarah know if you're going to be able to attend that meeting. And I look forward to seeing y'all next month. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.